What's the dumbest rule you had in school? No one was allowed to have or say the word drive pepper because it was the password to a shared browser's account the administration found out about. We couldn't wear winter clothing in class, coats, gloves, hats. Even with the heat on, it got cold in the winter inside the school, so we just had to freeze. They said it was because winter clothing were gang symbols. This was a farm town in Wisconsin. We could not touch each other. All physical contact was banned. There was one teacher that claimed if it wasn't for this rule, we would all be running around raping each other. Ah, yes, truly the time of my life. In primary school, we weren't allowed to put our rubbish from our lunches in the bin. I distinctly remember being in an assembly where the head teacher said your lunchbox is your bin. I mean, did she think the bins were for decoration? So stupid. When I was in high school, taking my second year of photography class, everyone was called into the auditorium for an assembly. It was to announce that cameras were no longer allowed to be used on campus due to privacy issues. This was about 2 weeks after the school had installed security cameras everywhere in the school. The boys weren't allowed to wear shorts at my middle school, but the girls could wear culottes, basically shorts with a fancy name. One day about 100 boys came to school wearing culottes. The man had it stuck to him hard that day. In second grade, only one boy and one girl were allowed to go to the bathroom at a time. I had to pee so bad that I was shaking, and this kid took a stupid amount of time to get back. He finally came back, and I had to wait in a line to his desk, and he finally said I could go. Pissed myself on the way there. FCKU, Mr. Benish. My middle school banned hugs. At least, they banged front hugs. The rule was against chest-to-chest contact, regardless of context or gender. No chest bumps after a game. Several girls got in trouble for hugging their female friends goodbye after school. It was a strange place. Edit. To clarify, this was a public school in a suburban area in a liberal part of the country, US. I don't remember whether there was a ban against hugs from behind. I'll try to ask some old classmates when I get home and update if any of them remember. School mandated haircuts. Edit. Wow. This blew up. It was only for the boys, by the way. For the girls, so long as you didn't color your hair other than its natural hair color, you were good. Checkup was every Monday when we were lined up according to height for the flag ceremony because the school president wanted to share all the good news with us, which ranged from positive events to one of their staff and students winning awards, etc. The prefect was very strict about it, but the teachers weren't, so we'd just skip mornings every few Mondays, so we didn't have to get a haircut. No colored shoelaces. Apparently it was a sign of gang affiliation. No toe shoes. It looked too much like you were wearing only socks. No eating outside the cafeteria. This was to reduce litter in the hallways, but our school cafeteria could only fit 100-ish people, so everyone ignored it. They tried enforcing it by guarding the cafeteria doors so those buying lunch couldn't leave, but then people just stopped buying school lunch. Edit. For clarification. No water bottles, because a few girls 4 years ago snuck vodka into the bathroom. At my grade school we weren't allowed to wear ankle socks. You would get detention if you did. No Simpsons anything. This was when it premiered, and there was this national scare that Bart was a bad influence. There were two popular Bart shirts that were banned, one that said "I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you?" and another that said "Bart Simpson, underachiever and proud of it." This eventually evolved into banning all Simpsons shirts, school supplies, stickers, etc. after some of the teachers started watching the show. They boys were not allowed to have doors on our stalls. We had a brick wall about 4 feet high between toilets with nothing in front. They said boys would ruin them. Girls were not supposed to hold hands or else they would turn lesbian. It wasn't the rule, but the wording. Grade 9, they made an announcement that you couldn't show your ass crack in the school. The admin decided to word that as no back cleavage. Edit for grammar. In elementary school, we couldn't kick a ball at recess because the school was afraid we would kick the balls to the top of the building. Needing to wait 10 minutes before and after classes had started to use the restroom. My adolescent body with developing Crohn's disease did not take kindly to this rule and got into fights with the bathroom monitor, often someone who would make sure nobody was in the bathroom for too long doing drugs, having sex, other things of the sort. Thankfully the principal had a heart of gold and gave me a special pass to use his personal private bathroom, which was so nice and clean. In a high school of 5,000 teenagers, being able to poop in peace at the rate you go with Crohn's disease made my life somewhat less shooty, pun intended. In 3rd grade we had to have playmates. It basically meant that we couldn't play with our friends on the break/recess. We had to play in a group. That group was filled with students from other classes too. Not fun. Can't wear red to school. So stupid. No hats was basically the only dress code my school had. The dumbest thing was Marizo. The reasoning behind it. It was put into effect after Columbine because apparently different groups, jocks, nerds, goths, etc., wore different headgear to differentiate themselves. We weren't allowed to be indoors for more than 5 minutes at recess. This was in Canada, and indoor recess started when it was below -25°C. Instances of school-wide diarrhea really shot up during the winter. Our school banned black socks. It was a public high school in a predominantly poor neighborhood, so the parents didn't give a shoot and bought whatever socks were cheapest or didn't have the money to buy all brand new socks again. It got to a point where we'd have whole school assemblies on it and the teachers threatening to suspend kids from school for wearing black socks. Couldn't wear flip-flops because they were considered a weapon, but you could wear stiletto heels. No one could wear Joe's Crab Shack shirts. At first it was just the tie-dye ones that said, peace, love and crabs. Because of the implication of sex and pubic lice, I suppose. It was a stretch. But then they expanded to any Joe's Crab Shack shirts. My friend had to wear a pet shirt all day because her shirt was a Joe's Crab Shack shirt. It didn't have offensive slogan on it. It just had a picture of a crab and the restaurant's name. She still had to change shirts. She was so embarrassed because no one wants to wear your pet shirt all day. In grade school we were told not to use spoons. Only babies used spoons. Yet they gave us spoons. Clear or mesh backpacks only. This was from 1st grade through high school in the late 90s to early 2000s. We also had to wear a safety vest as our bathroom pass in high school. It was such a joke that the first year the rule was introduced, our yearbooks were a giant safety vest on the outside. Honestly, the thought of a shared unisex safety vest for bathroom visits still grosses me out, as I know those things were never washed properly. Edit. This was before Columbine happened. Halfway through 8th grade they decided to ban all beverages including water from use by 8th graders. A couple of kids brought vodka in a water bottle to school, and they decided the best option was no liquids at all. We couldn't even bring in sealed beverages or unopened cans because they could have been tampered with. Buses were not allowed to depart at the end of the school day until the flag on the flagpole outside the main entrance had been taken down and properly put away. If someone forgot, all the buses would sit there idling for as long as it would take until the flag was dealt with. In middle school, had a stupid as all hell one-way hallway system where students could only walk in the halls one direction. Made me late twice actually, since my class was the first one behind the exit door, but forced to go in the entrance door. Was enforced even when halls were empty. One stick in the mud teacher threatened to write me up if I questioned the rule. Went to a Catholic school where there was a big white line painted across the schoolyard, and during recess boys played on one side and girls on the other. We were not allowed to intermingle during recess, even though we weren't separated during class or lunch. I'm a guy and all my friends were girls, so we used to stand at the line and talk. Got in trouble many times for that. Also in high school, post-Columbine, we weren't allowed to carry backpacks around the school. We had to leave them in our lockers and carry our heavy-ass textbooks around. In middle school we weren't allowed to talk at lunch or else we would get put up on the wall and get handed a detention. Like a clean version of hell. Girls couldn't wear tank tops because showing armpits wasn't allowed, but guys could wear wife beaters. Made no sense. No chains on wallets back in the day when chained wallets were the thing, so dudes replaced their chains with pearl necklaces as an photo admin. No black lipstick allowed. Oh, and they were really concerned about starter jackets and gang activity. This was a small farm town of like 700. Total overreaction. Also, most high schools allow you to attend a shorter day if you have met your graduation credits, but we had to sit all day, and sometimes that meant having 2 to 3 study halls if we had already met requirements. Such a waste of time. Backpacks weren't allowed to be worn during the school day in middle school. It was the dumbest thing, since you wear your backpack everywhere in high school and college. At an all-girls high school, no ankle socks, because ankles can attract boys and make them have sex with you. Ankles lead to legs, and legs lead to up there. And we all know what's in that area. Which also, according to the school, was great on the girl's part, because you were making the boy want to have sex with you, and boys, as you know, cannot resist. So hair couldn't be extreme, colored or pastel lobes for guys, as it would be considered a distraction to others. I had long hair past my shoulders, and would not cut it. Was a nice a lot. It's a silly thing to get detention for. Kids don't go to school to be told how to dress and how they should look. I remember how much of an impact The Breakfast Club movie had on me in my junior high days. On the first day of class, my 7th grade writing teacher demanded that we all buy comfortable pens. On the second day of class, she went desk to desk sampling our choices. Several students, myself included, experienced awkward embarrassment when she slammed down our pathetic pens and shouted nope. When I was a freshman in high school late 80s, there was a designated smoking area on campus. It was a square, maybe 10x10, painted on the ground in the courtyard. Students could only smoke in that box on campus. The next year they decided that you could only smoke in that box if you had a note from your parents. The year after that, no students were allowed to smoke on campus. My senior year, staff wasn't allowed to smoke on campus. This resulted in the box metaphorically moving to someone's driveway across the street, where students and teachers were all smoking together. In elementary school, kindergarten through 4th grade, we had this rule. When we went to lunch, there were 2 cups on the table, stacked on top of each other. One was red and one was grey. When lunch started, the red cup was on top and we weren't allowed to talk. Then, 5 minutes before lunch ended, they would switch it to green and finally allow us to talk to each other. You have to ask permission to have a drink. This rule got ignored when I was in year 10, but I still remember one teacher just screaming at me for taking a sip of water on a hot day. In middle school, we weren't allowed to chew gum. I was caught and had to write a 2,000-word report on the history of pizza. I wrote that damn report and my teacher forgot and never asked for it. Girls weren't allowed to wear skirts or dresses. Not even an official rule. Our math teacher decided that for us. Non-American here, we need to pay fine when we don't speak English in school. In every class leader used to note down student names whoever speak their native language other than English. This rule went on for 2 years, and then they finally removed it. In my high school, you can't play cards unless it's since playing cards are used for gambling. My best friend got detention for clapping, even though a lot of other people were clapping, because he disturbed the lunch period and supposedly started it all even though he didn't. You can't sing happy birthday in the cafeteria. You can't do a prom puzzle on school grounds. No solid red, blue, and towards the end of high school, no purple either. God forbid you wear more than one item with the same color. When I was in middle school, that god-awful Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life video came out, and the student council wanted to have a Shrek Spirit Day because of it. So the school banned Shrek and anyone who talked about it got a detention. A student at a different school slid down the banister on some stairs and got seriously injured. As a result, all students were banned from using one of the 5 staircases at my school. So we could all die on this one staircase, but the other 4 were completely safe. I was in the 1st grade. We only had one recess, and it was in the late afternoon. We had to walk in a straight line to the playground, stand in the playground yard in a straight line quietly, while the 2 teachers who pulled playground duty lead us through some basic exercises. Here is the problem. We are 1st graders. It's late afternoon. And you honestly expect us to stand there on a playground after an entire day of sitting in class at our desk doing work and listening to instructions and only having one break lunch and do basic exercises while standing on a freaking playground? I'm a sadist and this school taught me how to do it well. And when we wouldn't properly do what we were told, the basic exercises continued, meaning less time playing and burning energy and having just a little bit of fun during the day. Sometime in January something happened, and we royally pissed off those two teachers. So when they pulled recess duty there was no exercising and playing. No, we had to stand in line for the entire recess period. So about twice a week for the remainder of the school year. This school taught me sadism, taught me well. Your undershirt had to be white. We had a dress code at my school, where you had to wear a collared shirt. They didn't really care about the color or the design much, except you couldn't have really big words or designs on them. One day I actually got written up, because I had on a black shirt underneath my polo. The dean that wrote me up really hated me, so of course it was a really obscure rule that no one really cared about, but he liked to get me in trouble for whatever dress code violation he could. I even got voted most likely to be out of dress code my senior year. //I. Imga. com/4IE3EOS. PNG I got in trouble so much. No Oakland Raiders attire or black and gray colored clothing. Reason was because those are the colors of one of the largest gangs in Chicago. Of course, living in an entirely white rich suburb hours north of the south side of Chicago was surely a huge risk of gang association. My 5th grade teacher hated the smell of mint or fruity things. Had a strong sense of smell when it came to it. One day I was eating some Jolly Ranchers my buddy gave me, and while in the middle of taking a test she started sniffing and walking around the class. When she got to me, she knew. Put her hand down just under my chin and actually made me spit them into her hand. What? Leading to her implementing a rule for no types of candy in class, or that fruity smelling kids perfume for the girls. TL. Doctor teacher hated fruity/minty smells, made me spit Jolly Ranchers into her hand, and banned candy from her classroom. I remember that once a teacher yelled at me for walking fast on the hallway like, "Those kids over there block all the path," playing with Kendamus. In the bathroom 3 guys fight, and in that classroom they play shooty music loudly, but somehow I'm the problem. No gloves, because only gang members wear gloves. It's freezing cold and your gloves are bright pink. Take them off before someone thinks you're a member of the notorious Pink Gloves gang. You are not allowed to have fake pockets, for no reason. Out of the blue, just a new rule. In homeroom the teacher would check to see if you have any fake pockets. The rule is no longer enforced, but a teacher still have the power to enforce it. Then the same school banned Spanish one day. It was a detention. If someone said a Spanish word at my school, teachers can give you demerits for what they deem bad, which lead to one teacher giving out 2 demerits. 4 demerits is a detention for any made up words. The reasoning was that we would sometimes substitute made up words for our swears. So someone would say "what the fluker," or just say a random sounds out of boredom. My school just put this into place. You can't eat on the floor at lunchtime, even if there is limited space with the 1200 plus students. We weren't allowed to wear shirts with pictures on them. That includes embroidered logos, like you might see from Nike, Champion, or Polo shirts. Kids were wearing those shirts that had Bugs Bunny and Taz dressed up as Criss-Cross, and some parent or teacher thought they looked like gangsters. So the shirts were dubbed gang paraphernalia and the school wanted them banned, but didn't know how to just ban those without some kid feeling targeted. So they banned all shirts with pictures. We'd have free dress day about every 2 weeks, which devolved into whenever they felt like it, where you could wear a picture shirt, except for those dubbed gang paraphernalia. Why they didn't do that to begin with, over Criss-Cross Bugs Bunny of all things, I don't know. If you wore something with a logo on it, you had to either cover it with masking tape or buy special labels from the school to cover it. Yay for insane Christian private schools. Every single year students had to fight for their right to leave school during the lunch break. So when last year's 9th grade had managed to get allowed to leave during lunch break, this year's 9th grade had to also again fight for it. Stupid parents.